From the Opubco Studios at Britain and Broadway, you're listening to a News OK podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to a comics podcast at newsok.com. I'm Matt Price. I'm here with Kyle Roberts. We're going to talk about three big comics this week. We're going to start off with Amazing Spider-Man. This is Roger Stern and Lee Weeks, both returning to the title. Roger Stern wrote some well-regarded issues in the 80s, and Lee Weeks, I believe, has done some issues here and there, although he's best known for his work on Daredevil, most likely. And I felt like this had a good old-school feel. I like Roger Stern. I like Lee Weeks. Enjoyed the story a lot. He's bringing back a villain from the 80s. It's sort of Spider-Man stopping a mugging. Well, on the one hand, you might say, well, this doesn't feel like a big event. There are not worlds at risk. I don't mind having a Spider-Man comic where he's got to stop a superpowered mugger who has a slightly different gimmick or whatever, and he's worried about Aunt May. But I kind of like the old school feel of it. So
instead of Secret Invasion and having to save the whole entire world,
right.
It's more of Spider-Man.
It's a smaller street level Spider-Man story. So, and he does some detective work. He does some web slinging. A lot of things that you like to see out of a Spider-Man comic, or I do in any case.
And just like you said, the look of Spider-Man, like his facial expressions, looks like 80s Spider-Man.
Yeah, it kind of does. Kind of has the 80s look to it, which I enjoyed. So it doesn't feel necessarily retro, but it has kind of a classic aura about it. Second, we're going to look at Detective Comics 851. That is written by Denny O'Neil, the classic Batman editor, who also wrote some classic stories with Neil Adams way back in the 70s. This is the first part of Last Days of Gotham, where we're dealing with the disappearance of Bruce Wayne. So we've got Nightwing stepping up and investigating a case involving Two-Face. I thought pretty good. I always like to see Nightwing, and I thought this was an interesting story. So far so good. Denny O'Neil certainly can write a comic book. He's written hundreds of them, so interesting. Obviously, we're still kind of leading into where is this Batman thing going to go. It's going to tie in some to Final Crisis, but I think what we've got coming in the immediate future is some of Batman's sidekicks and other people trying to figure out, what do we do now that Batman's gone? How do we fill that gap?
Yeah, in some ways it kind of reminds me of Marvel's death of Captain America and kind of Bucky filling that position. You know, we don't necessarily know if Robin's going to take over that position. He doesn't seem like he wants to at this time, but it's a good story.
All right, very good. And then we're going to close out with Secret Invasion, Dark Reign. This is the follow-up to Secret Invasion. Those of you who finished up reading Secret Invasion kind of know at the end of that there was kind of a twist where some of the bad guys maybe have a little more prominence now, particularly Norman Osborn. So he is now meeting in Secret Invasion, Dark Reign with sort of a dark Illuminati, a lineup of several of the big bads of the Marvel Universe, and maybe a couple people who you might not think of as big bads, who obviously he's going to try to pull onto his side.
Yeah, the one thing I didn't necessarily care for on this is that the characters didn't necessarily look like you would think that they would look like. Some of the characters, I mean, he's typically, I mean, I guess like you said, is kind of darker and grittier than normal, but I don't know. I think it's a solid story. It's pretty much all dialogue, so if you like comics or dialogue, it's going to be for
very
you.
Dialogue heavy, sure.
If you're waiting for action, you might just want to wait for the next one.
There's not a lot of action in this one, it's true.
Kind of pick up.
Some interesting points, and if you're wanting to kind of get in the ground floor of Dark Reign and see what's going to happen there, this is where it kicks off. I probably enjoyed Amazing Spider-Man most this week, but depending on which big storylines you're following, there are arguments to be made for Detective Comics and Secret Invasion, Dark Reign as well.
Sweet, yeah, I'll go with that, man.
All right, so thanks for watching.